career advisor for the Abingdon campus. And we've also got Colin, who is the career advisor for the Witney campus. This webinar is being recorded so we can share with others who have not been able to attend. Presenting the webinar is Peter Howe, who is the Regional Student Recruitment and Access Officer from Reading University. We will take questions at the end, but if anybody would like to pop any questions in the Q&A, then please do so. So without further ado, if everybody could make sure their cameras and microphones are off, I will hand you over to Peter.
Thank you so much, Megan. Hi, I'm Pete. I'm from the University of Reading, and obviously today we're here to talk all about student finance for the entry year 2026-2027. I'm going to take you through a few different things, and I'm hopefully going to make the process a little bit easier and a little bit better for you to understand as you're going through. So what we are going to go through today, we're going to look at the student finance package. I'm also going to look at that extra funding. Some of that may be due to personal circumstances. Some of that may be things like scholarships or bursaries. We're going to look at the University of Reading support. This isn't just for Reading, but it gives you an example of what students may be able to get. We're going to talk through the applications and the information that you need to provide. We're then going to talk about the student loan repayments, something called Black Bullion that you will all have access to, what you need to do and when, and then I've got a few additional links for you. And I've also been able to pull up a QR code for the eligibility checker if we're not 100% sure. So if everybody's ready, I'll get started. Like Megan did say, obviously, please do feel free to pop any questions and I'll happily answer them at the end. So the student finance package, how does it work? There's two parts to the student finance package. There's the tuition fee, which you will need to pay as a student going to university. This, for the majority of people, is covered by the tuition fee alone. Then there's the other part, which is the living costs. So how are the students going to live? And this is covered by a list of different things. Could be covered in part by the maintenance loan, extra funding if you're eligible for it, part-time work as a student for the university or in the local area, scholarships and bursaries, which are fantastic, and we'll get a little bit more onto them later, and if possible and where possible, support from caregivers. For the year 2026-2027, tuition fees for new full-time undergraduate students, so these are students that have never done a degree before, are starting, and they're usually 3 or 4 year degrees. They are currently charged at £9,790. You don't have to pay tuition fees up front if you are a UK resident. It does not depend on your household income. It's paid directly to the university. So we receive those funds, the student doesn't. And then it's repayable, but only when the student's income is over £25,000 a year. So within that, there's lots and lots of information. You are eligible to get up to £6,935 for a part-time course at approved providers. So that will give you a little bit more information there. When it comes to living cost support, all students are entitled to receive some sort of maintenance loan. The amount is really dependent on kind of where the student lives, where they study, and their household income. The maximum for living outside of London and away from home for the year 2026-2027 is £10,830. This is paid directly into the student's bank account. So they will need to be able to budget, pay for things like accommodation and food with that. Again, the loan is repayable, but only when students' income is over the £25,000 mark. We will talk a little bit more about this later. Loans are available to full-time students entitled to benefits or aged over 60 before the first day of their course. Just a little bit of a caveat there. And this is for, like I said, students studying outside of London, not living with parents, and who are studying full-time. Let's break it down a little bit more, shall we? So this is a little bit more information. These are the maximum loan amounts that students are able to get. The higher the household income, the less support that students will be eligible for. So with a household income of £25,000 or under, These are the maximum ones. If you would like to find out what your student is eligible for, you can see there's a little bit of a link right on the bottom of the page that says estimate your student finance using the student finance calculator. So you can do that at gov.uk/student finance calculator. The household income is of the parents or step-parent, partner, wife, husband, or civil partner that you usually live with. The overseas rate is available for students on approved study years abroad as a part of their UK-based course. I hope that gives you a little bit more information on that one. I will also let you know that the income thresholds for the minimum non-income assessed final year rates of loans are 56,910 if the student is living at home, 67,422 if the student is living elsewhere, so outside of London and away from home. For London, and 60,836 if the student is living elsewhere away from home. Apologies about that. And then for the overseas, it's £62,678. Students can be assessed as an independent student. This can be due to a range of different things. I've got a list of them there on the screen, and I'll go through them now. So if they're over 24 on or before the start of the academic year, if they are personally married, divorced, or in a civil partnership, if they have care of a person under the age of 18, they have no living parents, if they have no contact or are estranged from their parents, if they are a care leaver or they're leaving local authority care, if they cannot trace their parents or it is not practical, possible, or safe to contact them, or if they have supported themselves financially for at least 3 years before the start of the course. For students that do apply for as an independent student, there are a couple of forms that will need to be filled out. Usually the colleges will be able to support them with that. This means that student finance don't really take in what the parents' income are because they usually don't have contact with their parents. So just a little bit of background there. I'm going to give you a maintenance loan support example for one. So this is Dave. This is Dave's family. Dave is not living with parents when Dave goes to university, and they are studying outside of London. They have a household income of £70,000, which means that Dave will be eligible for £5,048. Again, at the bottom of the screen, I've put the student finance calculator so you can calculate your own for student finance. This is Blue. Blue is fantastic. This is Blue's family. Again, Blue is not living with parents and is studying outside of London. Blue has a household income of £28,000, which means that Blue will be eligible for 10,367. And then finally, this is Charlie. Charlie is not living with parents and studying outside of London again. They have a household income of £0. They were working before, so they did have a salary, but now they're going to university, it has become £0. That means that they will be eligible for the full student loan. Again, like I've said, you can estimate your student loan on the student finance calculator. There are also some really useful websites, so they're on the screen there for you. And you can also go to UCAS. UCAS is absolutely amazing and will give you lots and lots of information about student finance. How the payment process works. So like I've already said, the tuition fee loans are paid directly to us at the institution. This happens after enrolment. So the students will arrive at university, they'll start to get settled in, and usually within the first week, they will do an enrolment where they fully enroll onto their course. With this, they'll need to apply again every single year whilst they are studying. With the maintenance loan, it is paid directly to the student. It's in 3 installments, so usually the first one is triggered by enrolment and they receive it usually 3 to 5 working days afterwards. The second one is usually after the December break, and the third one comes around April time. Again, with that one, you apply every year. Like I said earlier, there is always additional and extra funding in place. So let's go through some of those there now. This extra support is non-repayable. So if students do have children, there is a childcare grant. This helps with childcare costs for dependent children under the age of 15 at the beginning of the academic year, or under the age of 17 if they have special educational needs in a registered or approved childcare. You can get more information on that from the link at the bottom of the page. There's also a parent's learning allowance, which is up to £2,024, and the adult dependence grant, which is up to £3,545. Apologies there. If you have a disability, a long-term or mental health condition, or specific learning need, there is finance available. This can help with lots and lots of different things, including a specific tutor or support whilst you're at university. This is referred to as Disabled Students Allowance. It helps pay for extra costs that students might have to face as a direct result of their disability, long-term health condition, mental health condition, or specific learning difficulty, such as dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD. It is additional support that to help students otherwise may be prevented from attending higher education because of their disability. So there are a few key facts about this one. It's available to undergraduates and postgraduates studying in full-time or part-time. It doesn't have to be repaid. It doesn't depend on household income. The amount the students get relates to their needs up to a specified maximum amount that I've already said. It doesn't affect the benefit entitlement. For example, other students might get like a disability living allowance, won't be affected by DSAs. It isn't affected by the student's age. It isn't affected by any previous study. It's paid directly to a supplier of a service in some circumstances, or in other circumstances, it's paid directly into the student's bank account. You can get more information from this from the Student Finance website. If you are going on a study abroad year or a clinical placement as a part of your course, there is financial support available for that one. There are bursaries for certain professions as well, such as teacher training and certain NHS courses. These are dependent, and I would suggest checking the websites where possible. And if you're leaving local care authority or have been a looked after child, there are grants and financial support available. Okay. I would check into those because if you are eligible for certain of those, you don't also get a maintenance loan. When we're talking about the additional funding and additional support, lots of people will talk about scholarships and bursaries. So we have this grid here just to make it a little bit easier. So with a scholarship, it's not repayable. They are limited in number. There is an application necessary for many of them. They're based on academic achievement. They are subject specific usually. Sometimes they're based on household income and certain professions. They are usually paid as some or all of the accommodation costs, reduction of tuition fees, or cash. It very much depends on the student. Bursaries, again, they are repayable. They are not repayable. They are limited in number again. Application, you don't have to apply for those. You will need to tick a box on your student finance application that is called consent to share. It's relevant to your personal situation, attendance at certain schemes, household income, or even learning needs. It's dependent per university where bursaries are concerned. It is a reduction of accommodation costs, reduction in tuition fees, or even a cash bursary for students. So here's a couple of examples from the University of Reading. We have the Global Sustainability Leaders Scholarship. This is £6,000 a year for the student for every year of study for their living costs. There's only 400 of these available. We do ask students to be on track to achieve AAA plus or AAB for a contextualized offer. This is an offer where the grades have been reduced for certain criteria. You can look up contextualized offers on each university's website, as many of them differ. It's post-offer invitation to apply, so you will receive an email if you do apply to Reading. You express your commitment to sustainability leadership in an essay and the programme of events throughout your undergraduate study. There is a link at the bottom if you did want to find out more information there. By the way, I know I have said A levels there, so of AAA or AAB. Please do look at the differences because it is also offered to students doing alternative qualifications as well. It's not strictly for A level. If we move on, this is the Reading Bursary and the Reading Equity Student Bursary. So the Reading Bursary is worth £1,500 a year. This is for students with income below £27,000, so a household income of below that, and usually a home address within Polar 4, Tundra or Tundra, Quintile 1 or 2, or IMD Quintile 1 or 2. And I can imagine quite a lot of you are sat at home right now going, Pete, I have no idea what that means. If you go onto our website, so Reading, or you go onto Google and you type in Polar 4 postcode checker, you'll be able to check that. So you want to be looking for yourself in Quintile 1 or 2 to see if you are eligible for those sorts of different things. Each university will post the information on that though. So on their bursaries pages, they will tell you what the information is that you will need to have. We also have the Reading Equity Student Bursary. This is a cash bursary of £500 that will be paid to students in one instalment. Eligibility is the same as above, plus a student to come from a Black African, Black Caribbean, or mixed Black African, Black Caribbean ethnic background. Other bursaries and scholarships and such that we have a care estrangement bursary, we have the Julia Boardman Award, we have the Work and Placements Bursary, the Reading Scholars Programme, the Digital Support Fund. There are so many, and we even have more than these sorts of ones. We also have things like the Ewan Page Prize Bursary, the Pre-Entry Travel Bursary as well. So do always look into those for universities, especially if you're thinking about going to things like taster days or open days, because they may be able to pay your costs for you to arrive. And then at Reading, we also have the Pre-Application Bursary to support students with disabilities. I hope that all made sense there. It's a lot of information. If you want to check out more of our bursaries and scholarships, you're able to do that on the link on the screen right now. It's pretty easy to go through. You are able to click through and see all of them as they're going through. We're now going to move on to things like part-time work. So part-time work is an amazing way for students to support themselves whilst they're at university or prior to them going to university. Within the University of Reading, we have something called Campus Jobs. Campus Jobs is amazing and will support students in getting jobs. If they do decide to come and work for me, like the two students on the screen right now, they are student ambassadors. They work for my team and they are absolutely wonderful. We always support them to make sure that they're able to work around their studies and that they're not overworking. Many universities will have a student union as well as student ambassadors, and there's usually in the local area summer jobs or holiday jobs for them to do. Right, we're now going to move on to the big one, how to apply. We're going to go through the student section first, and then we're going to go through the parents or guardians section. Okay. Informations for students. So applications should open in March, and I do have the exact date for that right here. 2 seconds, do apologize. That is Monday, the 23rd of March, 2026. That has now been confirmed. So that is when Student Finance will open for this year, for September applications. They will close in May, so you do need to make sure that you get your application in by that cut-off date. I don't have that with me at the moment, but if you do check on the Student Finance website, it will tell you. Late applications can be accepted, but may mean that your student finance is late when you come to university. So making sure it's done nice and early really does support with that. Things that you're going to need. You're going to need a UK passport, birth or adoption certificate, or other identity or residency documents to support your application. You're going to need a national insurance number. As a student, you're going to need your own UK bank account details, and you're going to need your preferred university and your preferred course details. You'll apply with your preferred, so your number one choice, because it's easier to change it later than it is to apply late. It usually takes around about 30 minutes. My biggest tip for you is to sit down, get a cup of tea or other beverage that you may enjoy, such as hot chocolate or juice, and concentrate and relax. Try not to do it in the middle of a busy cafe. Do it whilst you have time and you're able to do it. The second part of the student finance application is for parents. So usually once the student has applied, you will be emailed a link within 24 hours to create your own online account to provide the information about your income for the previous tax year. So if you're applying in March this year, it will be the previous tax year, so 2024 to 2025, okay? That's how it works for these ones. If your income for the current tax year will be at least 15% less, you can do a current tax assessment and you can contact Student Finance to do that. It is really, really simple. I will be able to pop a link in for that one. You, as the parent or guardian, are going to need a national insurance number, your household taxable income, your personal taxable income, details of any other child dependents. You're also going to need any information if you have any private pensions that you get to personally yourself. This was something that myself and my mother didn't know, and we had to add those in. HMRC may ask for evidence of your income if the details do not match HMRC's records, and they're going to ask for your marital status if you're separated or you have become divorced. If there is more than one dependent child in the same household, a standard allowance of 1,130 is deducted from the household income for each of these additional dependents. If there is more than one student from the same household in higher education, depending on the household income, a further reduction may be possible through applying to split contributions, expected parental contributions to a student's maintenance cost. This can all be done on the Student Finance website. Big thing, please apply early. Thousands and thousands of students every year apply late for Student Finance, and it means that their finance is not in place for the start of the academic year. Don't be one of those students. Apply with your first choice. It's easier to change it than it is to apply late, like I've always said. It is a minimum of 6 weeks to process the application. I say minimum there because it can be a lot longer. You can apply online at gov.uk/student finance. Like I've already said, apply with your first choice. We can change it later. We can support you in that. Make sure all your information is right first time from both you and your guardians or parents. And make sure that you read and understand the loan's terms and conditions, because that is important. Okay, so that's it for the student loan. That's how you apply. We're now going to move on to student loan repayments. So everybody, the biggest thing that everybody always says to me, and Megan can back me up on this one because I've been into the college today and we've spoken about it quite a lot. The biggest thing students say is, I'm in debt. It's a huge debt, because they don't understand how the student loan repayment actually works. Isn't that right, Megan?
It is, yes. Yeah, we had a few today, didn't we?
Yeah. So let's go through the student loan repayment process. So repayments. Repayments start the April after graduating or leaving university. What that means is usually you do some sort of exams in May, which is absolutely amazing. You finish, you're all done. From July through to September, even December sometimes, is when most people graduate. And then the April following that, so the start of the new tax year, is when you'll start paying back your student loan. You will only start paying back your student loan when your income is over £25,000 a year. You will only repay 9% of your income over that £25,000. So if you earn £26,000, you pay 9% on that £1,000 over the 25. Deductions are made directly from your pay through the HMRC tax system. So it's not something that you have to go and pay. It comes out with your tax, your national insurance. If your income falls below that £25,000 at any point, you stop your repayments. So they automatically stop if you fall below that. So if I right now decide that I am going to go travel the Himalayas for 6 months and I'm not earning any money, my student loan repayments will stop. Any outstanding loan balance will be written off 40 years after entering repayment. It doesn't matter whether you have £5, £5,000 or £10,000. If there is anything left at that 40-year mark, it is written off. You do not pay it. So you're going to think, how much am I going to repay? Here is a lovely kind of breakdown for you. So if you earn £30,000, income from which is about 9%, which is deducted of £5,000, you're going to pay approximately £37.50 a month. As you can see, your income does go up, the repayments do go up as well. One of the big things about student loans is it is very similar to a tax or the national insurance because it does come out at source. So it is a little bit better. There is interest set at the RPI, which is retail price index. For an example, for 2025, 2026, that was set at 3.2, not 32, 3.2. So its interest rate equals RPI. So do have a look into things like the interest rate and how much you will be charged on those sorts of different things. So the University of Reading have partnered with something called Black Bullion, which means for you guys, if you want to do it, if you want to go on there, it is completely free. Use that website right there. Go onto it, sign up. You're able to go on do things like short videos, quizzes, and things that are going to support students with their university life. It includes things on student funding, the cost of living, estimating your loan repayments, and planning for the future. But as a university, we pay for that so you don't have to. And it's a really great resource to kind of get you started when you're going to university. Okay, what do you need to do and when? So the year before university, so many year 12s, will have looked at things like Black Bullion. You can still do that now, even if you're a second year at college or even a third year at college. Have a look at it. You can also sign up to the Finance Authority's mailing list because they will email you when it is open. Before the Christmas kind of break, you can even still look now, so don't worry about that. These are just the kind of dates that we provisionally put in. Check out the university's bursaries and scholarship because that's quite a lot of money that you may be eligible for. Okay, February, early March, you need to make sure that you've prepared your documentation. You're doing that right now because you're speaking to me and I've told you what you need to have in place. And for students, you need to explain to your parents what they will do. So if there's any students here, then I've given you all that information now. So please make sure that you've made notes or speak to your careers advisor at the different colleges. End of March. So I gave you the date earlier. You need to apply for your student finance with your preferred course and make sure that your parents do that bit. Any parents on the call, I'm sure students will help you. When I went to university all those years ago, I had to sit my mum down and go through all of it with her just because she wasn't sure. The last thing on this one is make sure that you have a little bit of money behind you. So try and save up to kind of cover those early weeks of your course where your student loan may be available from the day one. Okay, I really do hope that all helps you right there. So a couple of recaps. Maintenance loan and tuition fee loans are eligible to students. Research all of the finance options available, especially those bursaries and scholarships, because you don't have to repay them. Apply online and on time. Don't wait for your confirmed place. Do it with your preferred choice. Check all of your details are correct before submitting your application. Remember that your future repayments are linked to income, not what is owed, and any outstanding loan will be written off after 40 years. Okay, you get a set amount of student finance for the length of your course, plus 1 year. So if you do decide to change course, you will get an additional year. Okay. So gov.uk/student finance, that is the website where you will need to apply. It's a really, really easy process as long as you take your time with it. The student finance calculator, it's one of my favorite things. You can go on there, you can have a look and you can estimate how much you will be able to get. For students and parents, guardians on the call, social media. For me, I'm old school, so I'm very Facebook, but they do have it across all of their platforms. Have a look. It really will help. If you need some additional help or you're still not 100% sure, Student Finance England has their own YouTube account where you can watch some videos and they'll explain the process and all of those sorts of different things to you. I've popped a few different links on the page there for you. Feel free to take a picture of that if you'd like to. And I do know that obviously this is being recorded. Student finance information is the top one, which is the gov.uk/student finance. The student room is an amazing resource where lots of information is put on it, and you can have a flick through of it and read. UCAS, this is where students will do their application, but they also put a lot of support information on student life, the getting started, all of that sort of information. Virtual events page, so that's us at Reading. So we put a lot of things on there about not only our open days and our free taster days, but also we put information on there about student finance and funding as well. You can email us directly at studentfunding@reading.ac.uk and we will happily support you, or you can call us on the number listed there. We have a couple of different pages for us at Reading. So we've got the Money Ready for Uni. That's one of the pages that's not associated with us, and we've got the student.reading.ac.uk/essentials/money matters, where we'll be able to support and help you. I know I mentioned it earlier in the call, but I am going to just quickly flick back and mention this again. One of my biggest tips, there is that little box that says consent to share on your application. Please do tick that, because it doesn't mean a lot to you, but when it comes to us at a university, it may mean that we're able to offer you an additional bursary, so additional money, just because you've clicked that box and we can see a little bit of information. Okay, that's it from me. We're now able to have any questions. I'm obviously super happy to help you. The one last thing that I am actually going to do is on the government website, if you're not 100% sure of your eligibility, you can check your eligibility. So you can check your eligibility if you don't think you've been in the UK for long enough or such like. That is the QR code to do that. I've created that for you so you can scan that and you can go onto the website and check to see if you are eligible for student finance. I'll leave that there for a second and then we'll move across to some questions, if that's okay, Megan.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Pete. I hope everybody found that useful. Anyone got any questions? We're quite happy to answer them if you want to pop them in the chat or just raise a hand or anything. Obviously, after this evening, if you've got any other questions, you can always pop and see myself at the Abingdon campus, Colin at the Witney campus, and if we've got anyone from the farm, obviously you've got Cheryl. So, you know, we're all around to help you if there's any other questions that you need. So we'll just give it a few. So we've got a question about, sorry, I missed what should be ticked for additional money.
So when you do your student finance application, there is a little box that says consent to share. What that does is it will share financial information with the university. We don't look into it. We don't overly go over it. What it does, it means you're added to a sheet where we have lots of different information, and if your household income is slightly below that threshold, so for us it's 27,000. Each university is very different on that, by the way. Some of them have quite a lot higher thresholds, some of them have lower. If you're below that, it may mean that we're able to then give that student a bursary. You don't have to apply for it. It's just so that we can see that consent to share kind of box on that one. So do that. It is really, really useful on that one. I would always check out bursaries and scholarships anyway, no matter where you go, what you do, just because it is so useful, and it is that kind of additional money that you don't have to pay back. It is so useful. Whilst you're thinking about questions and popping some questions in, one thing that I will say is somebody from a university perspective. So myself, I go to a lot of different schools, colleges across Oxfordshire, Surrey and Northwest London. Abingdon and Witney are absolutely amazing because they have dedicated careers advisors. You've got Megan, you've got Cheryl, and you've got Colin. Please use these guys. They are absolutely fantastic. The amount of schools and colleges that I go to that don't have these guys that can support you with things like personal statements and student finance and like those sorts of questions. And no question is too silly. You can always pop in and just ask a question, and they'll always kind of answer it for you usually. Is that right, Megan?
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah, we're always there to help you. There is another question. What was the end date for the finance applications?
So it is in May. I am just going to double check. When I say end date, what I mean is that guarantees that it's in for September 2026. You can apply all the way up to your course, but it will be later. So this year, so the 23rd of March is the day to apply, but they haven't actually said yet what the day in May is. It's usually mid-May. So it's usually in the mid-May time. Last year, I think it was the 16th of May. But as soon as I get that information, I will pass it on to Megan, Colin, and Cheryl so that they're able to disseminate it out to you guys.
There is another question here, actually. There's does tuition fee loan depend on household income, or do you get it regardless of income?
So with the tuition fee loan, you get it completely regardless of income. So if I just pop back, I'm going to fly all the way back to the start of the slide, just because there was a lot of information in that, and I do apologize. Student finance is one of those things where there is so much information to take it in. There we go, almost there. So with your tuition fees, this does not depend on household income, whereas the maintenance does depend on your household income. So tuition fees, you're eligible for that as long as you're a UK resident, you have been a UK resident, or you have residency permit to stay, or you meet that eligibility that I just showed you on the QR code. If you go through there and you are eligible, your tuition fees will be paid. Okay, you just have to apply for them. Make sure you apply for them every year.
There's another one here about, it says, my niece is estranged from her parents, but they are still her legal guardians, but estranged on her application. Does she put her parents' details down for income? I suspect in that situation, it's probably no, isn't it, if they're estranged?
So if the student sees themselves as estranged, which some students do, it's one of those things. If she sees herself as estranged, there is a form that you can do. If you speak to, I don't know if your niece goes to Abingdon or Whitney, if they do, they can speak to the careers advisors there. There is a form, or if you go onto Google, type in Student Finance England, estranged student, it gives you the full page. And then as you go through it, it will tell you the form that needs to be filled in. It usually needs to be backed up by somebody that is official, so usually a tutor or the careers advisors or somebody that knows you from a school setting. It can be done by a police, a nurse, a doctor as well, but it's somebody who knows you and knows of the estrangement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the guidance says the student finance, the government webpage, they give you tons of information. It's really good website for information on how to do things, and everything is in there, isn't it? So you can find the forms and everything.
It can be a bit difficult to navigate sometimes, but there is a really good trick with the student finance website, and I'm going to be really honest with you. One of the easiest ways to get through the student finance website, if you're looking for something very particular and you know what you are looking for, go onto Google, type SFE, so Sugar Foxtrot Echo, SFE, and then type in what you need. So SFE calculator, SFE estranged student, and it usually brings up the page that you will need. Thank you for popping that in the chat, Amy. Somebody just asked for the QR code for the eligibility again, so I just popped it up on the screen.
There's one up asking about Ukraine students. So
with Ukrainian students, I'm going to be really, really honest with you. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure what the criteria is at the moment, because obviously each year things change. What I would suggest that you do, if you are a Ukrainian student or you've come across to the UK because of the issues in the Ukraine, do that eligibility check, because it will tell you exactly what you are eligible for. Also, check out university websites, bursaries and scholarships, because there are certain ones for students who have had to move due to conflict or a war or different things. So please check those out, because there may be additional funding in place for you there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we have a few Ukrainian students at the college, and the ones that have applied to uni they seem to have done okay, but it's always worth just double checking.
Yeah, always check every year because they do change the eligibility every year slightly. So always check with student finance. I'm pretty sure that they can apply for student finance and they're able to apply for the whole thing, but I can't guarantee that. Therefore, I can't give you a confirmed answer. There is usually a question that we usually get, which is, I'm going to university, which bank do I apply for? Which is the best? We're not allowed to advise at a university, but my personal tip for you is, if you are going to get a bank account, so a specific student bank account, see what they are offering, because banks offer all sorts of different things. Back when I was a student many years ago, they used to offer student rail cards for free every single year, which means if you're traveling to and from university, you could potentially get your travel for a little bit cheaper. So always have a look around and see which one's offering what and what is available. I did forget one thing as I was going through, Megan. My biggest thing that you've seen me talk about hundreds of times in student finance, if you ever have to send anything to student finance, please send it recorded delivery, because then they can't lose it. I'm not saying that they do lose lots of things, but they receive hundreds and hundreds of things every day. If you send it recorded for, they can't lose it. Okay. Have we got any more questions coming, Megan?
No, I think that looks like we have no, I think we've done all the questions, unless anybody else wants to put anything in. But I think if not, I think we are probably.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing is, obviously the what Peter's explained to us is all of the things that Reading do, and each university will have their own finance page, and they will have all the same details, because what Reading offers is obviously potentially some of it's unique to them, but other things are not. So bursaries very commonly they're given to people based on their the family income. And they usually might have a sliding scale. Obviously, there are things like being a nurse, isn't there, and you get money for that. So and they'll have their own contact details as well, so you'll be able to find out information about the finance and any bursaries, particularly because they're offered by pretty much every university. They will have something because they're given money for that, aren't they, to do that.
Yeah.
And also there are things based on sometimes people's personal circumstances, like care leavers and various other aspects that are personal to a person, but they could well also have a way of getting more finance, and of course, saying with a bursary, it's not paid back, so it's just money to be that you can use without having to worry about the loan aspect.
Completely. Each university is very different, and don't just look at bursaries and scholarships, look at awards as well. Awards are those wonderful things as well. Every university is different. Unfortunately, me being from Reading, I can only really show you our bursaries and scholarships, but please look at all of those sorts of different things. They're wonderful. I would never have gone to university and got through university if I didn't get the bursary that I got. So please do have a look through, go through, ask all those questions. Any students on the call today, I'm sure you will probably see me across the campuses at some point throughout the year. Thank you for coming along today. I really do hope that has helped and also put some people's minds at ease. Money is a big thing when it comes to universities. It was something that I was very stressed about when I applied. But yeah, the team at Abingdon and Whitney are one of the best. I work with, like I said, lots of colleges and schools, and they genuinely are one of the best. They're absolutely outstanding. So please speak to them, and they can always contact me as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Pete.
Okay. Well, that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody.